All right, everyone. Hello, welcome back to FEM Talk. It is FEM Talk Tuesday, and we are here to discuss tonight a really big topic tonight that is affecting everyone that has been around for the past year and a half, right? So, you guys, we are talking about COVID, caught between COVID and the variants and the effects on people's lives. So I'm going to bring in the ladies of FEM Talk, and we are going to discuss. We have a special guest for you tonight, but I'm not going to say her name yet. But a lot of you know her beautiful face if you are following FEM Talk. So we're going to bring her in very shortly. But here are the ladies of FEM Talk. It is Brandy, the connector.
Hi, hi, hi.
And we have Melissa, girl bossed up.
Love.
Our very own Shima is not here tonight. She is actually on a flight. We have just come back from Destin, Florida. A few of our friends were vacationing in Destin. We had an amazing time. So I actually just got back today as well. But she is stuck on a flight going back to New Jersey. So you saw her in that amazing commercial. We want to make sure that you guys are supporting her in her efforts to go to Kenya, Africa in January. So you saw that commercial. We will be showing that again, but let's support her even when she is not on the show tonight and only because she's on a flight. All right. So here we go, you guys. We are going to be talking about caught between COVID and these variants. And there's two new variants in particular that are out that are seeming to cause a lot more havoc than the first. They are saying that the strands are a lot more dangerous than the alpha strand that was initially out starting early in 2020. So I just want to get into this discussion a little bit before we bring our special guest, before we announce her, just to talk about, what you're seeing. I know, Melissa, with you, you are a business administrator and children are on their way back to school. So that's something that, we're going to be discussing over the course of the next couple of weeks. But, people were just starting to really get comfortable about getting outside. A lot of people have been vaccinated and they were getting comfortable with getting outside, some wearing masks, some not, but still just being able to move about a little bit more. And I think now with these new variants out, it has now, scared people into staying at home again. So we want to just talk about that. We want to talk about the effects of what's happening here. Brandy and I were actually talking backstage, and I'm actually in North Carolina, and North Carolina has mandated the wearing of masks. I was just telling her that, the school system has said that the children must wear masks. If they do not have them on, they will be turned away. So they will have to go back home. So is that happening in New Jersey as well, Melissa?
Yes, it is. We are. As a matter of fact, tomorrow night is our board meeting. The superintendent has a reopening plan. One of the things that we are mandating also are masks. So we are asking all the students and parents to send their children in with masks. And in sending it in, what we're going to have also available for them just in case they break it during the day or they don't they don't come in with the mask, we will have masks on hand. Because one of the things we have learned being open, being a school district, is there was containment even to the alpha variant. Even we know now the Delta variant is a lot more contagious, but the thing that we've learned being open for 16 months, now going on to 17 months of school, is that when you provide all those different layers, if it's the mask, we're going to have desk guards on every desk. We're going to have everybody, as best as we can, social distance. Right now, the mandate is 3 feet. Get to 6 feet, you can, but certain classrooms are too small to even do the 3 feet.
Right.
So have the desk guards. As best as we can, do what we can do to not have a lot of children, socialize in the sense we're getting to big groups. But even that has to be managed. You know what I'm saying? Because we do want to bring all the students back as normal setting as possible. But at the same time, COVID is real. So, but like I said, we did see, and maybe success is not the right word, but we did limit a lot of the exposure last year. Now we did not have a full group of students there, so So really, September is going to be the test for many school districts.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as we know, last year there was a big, a lot of students went virtual.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of parents decided not to send their students. Now
Right.
that is not an option that we're offering in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have 90%, if not more, of the population back. Because, I'm
Right.
going to still be parents that say, I'm just not going to try it. But
Yeah.
especially with the, contraction rate going up so much. But it's a daunting task.
Yeah.
We're coming up with all kinds of solutions. We're ready for, especially if they're, we have to prepare for contagions.
Sure.
If the students are going to get it, some people are going to come down with COVID. The good thing we do have a very large population of the staff vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
That is some protection that it does provide, and also the ability for them to be more consistent. But on a student level, we're pre-K to 12.
Right.
So more than half of our population is unvaccinated.
Right.
Are
they making it mandatory for the teachers in New Jersey to get vaccinated? Because I heard that. Okay.
No, it is not a mandate. It's still not a mandate. We as a district are not mandating it. Now, what we are gonna implement is if you're not vaccinated, we are asking for a weekly test.
Okay.
Because
just of the staff
that are not vaccinated, we are asking for a weekly test so that we can have some assurances that as you come in every week, you're not contagious. Because the only way to really keep and minimize the spread is to make sure if you do have symptoms, you're not in the population.
Right.
Right. And that is the key, So those are things we're going to be trying to do.
So I know last year they were filling out forms to say, if there are symptoms. Every morning they had to submit these forms in the school district that we were in last year. They had to submit forms. They're not requiring that here in North Carolina where we are now, but they were doing that last year. So how are you going to know when there is those symptoms happening within the student population? Because it's a large population of kids.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. One of the things that we are going to do is we're not gonna have the daily form because that's really hard to manage. Every day you get that, but we're gonna send out the protocols to the parents for the first day, and they have to certify that on a daily basis they are monitoring their children for symptoms and any symptoms. And one of the things that I think we've also embraced is that COVID is not the only thing out there. We've always had breakouts with the flu, with stomach viruses, breakouts in schools for all kinds of things, So what we're
particularly now with the winter season coming in, right? Yeah,
exactly. It's flu season coming up.
Right.
So one of the things we're going to be asking parents to do is to certify at the beginning of the year that they're going to be looking at children every day. And then every day we're going to send out a morning reminder. Make sure you're sending your students symptom free to school. Because I think the daily reminder that, when you see an email, you go, okay. And then, say your child does have a runny nose. You may want to keep them home because in the past, let's be honest, I'm a parent. I've sent my child to school, give them some Tylenol, and say, go on to school. That's not the case no more. I'm not the only parent that's done that.
Right.
I've done give them some medication and the fever's for 4 hours, go on to school.
Right.
So we've done that as parents because, we have our jobs. We have to go. But this is not that season no more.
Yeah.
Your child, so I encourage parents to have plan B.
Yeah.
Who's going to take care of, Johnny, Alice, Malika? Who's going to take care of them when they come down with symptoms? Have your plan B ready.
Yeah.
If it's auntie, if it's grandma, if it's, home days, work with your employer.
Yeah.
Can I have work from home options? Those kind of things.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that you bring up the parents too, because we want to be able to cover this for both sides. Like the trauma that is going to cause the parents, right? The stress that it puts on the parents too, with having to have that plan B, potentially not having the support that they need, right? And now people are going back to work. Jobs are reopening their buildings now and expecting people to come back in. So I want to be able to talk about with our expert, and we're going to announce her in just 1 minute, want to be able to talk about both sides of things, the trauma that it causes the kids, wearing masks, going back to school, hearing what they hear on social media or on the news, and then even with the parents, the same thing for them, right? Hearing what they hear on the news and social media, but then having to deal with life, right? Because the weight of that should be on the parents and having to monitor their kids, and then also think about the stress of going back to work or running their business, whatever it is that they're doing on a day-to-day basis, and not really having, school was really before COVID, it was that place that they knew that their kids were safe for that amount of time where they could get some things done, whether it be work, business, run errands, whatever it was, and then be able to pick up their kids and continue their evening. So now they don't have that time anymore, or if it's there right while the kids are in school, it could be taken away because your kid could either have symptoms, or the school system could say, hey, there's too many kids breaking out, right? And now we need to shut things down and go virtual, and then the parents need to be home again. That could very well happen with these new variants. So I want to bring in our expert, but then I also want to just mention some of the things about now this new Delta and Lambda as well. And then we want to talk to our expert about, some of the traumas that, she's seeing in people because of what's happening in this pandemic. So we want to bring to you guys the beautiful Sarai, right? She is a expert in trauma. She is a licensed mental health counselor, right? Don't want to get that wrong. So you guys, she is going to come in and talk to us. She has been, doing this for, you can correct me when she comes in, but I thought I heard her say for over like 15 or 16 years, but I want her to tell us when she gets in. So let us bring her in. Hello, Sarai.
Hello. Thank you for that awesome presentation, I guess.
You're welcome. Well deserved, of course.
Well, I'm Sarai. Yeah, I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I've been a therapist for, I thought it was 22 years, but I calculated yesterday and it's 23 years. I think I don't want to know the years because it just makes me older.
Like, you're still beautiful. We can't tell.
I'm trying to pretend to be 35 all the time.
I like that. I stopped at 25, so you're doing good. You're doing good. You're saying 35. I stopped at 25.
I don't like 25. I like 35. I wasn't happy with 25. This is an awesome conversation, and it's a well-needed conversation as well. I think the stressors for children and parents this new school year is very different from last school year, because like even for myself, like I felt better knowing that my daughter was home, even though that was, that's not the best thing that we want for our children, because there's no socialization and lack of exercise and all of that. But now I'm concerned about her being in school and wearing a mask all day. Also, like possibly getting exposed to other children, so anybody else that could have COVID. Like we're gonna see that boom over the next couple months, right? And then her bringing it home, and then there's a thing, the stressor of, okay, now you can't see your grandparents because now you. So there is so much stress that doesn't need to be traumatic. It's not necessarily traumatic, but it is definitely just a state of stress. That the unfortunate part is that it'll become a norm, or it almost has already become a norm. It's almost a norm not to see your grandparents. It's a norm to stay at home and to be separate from one another. The norm of like not being able to sit right next to each other and talk like the way we used to. Today I walked my daughter into school and I forgot to put on her mask. And immediately they were like, wait, where's your mask? And I was like, oh my God. And I thought something, I just freaked out. I was like, oh, there's no mask. And then they sent her to the office to get a mask. So it's all these new things that are new for us, but maybe, their children are so resilient that maybe it is more traumatizing for us watching it than it is for them. They're just going about doing their thing. It's their first experience. We have our memories of going to elementary, high school, middle school, and doing our thing. So in our minds, we're comparing it. But well, my daughter's in 3rd grade, so she doesn't have that much comparison as compared to like a high schooler.
Yeah. Now, see, my son is going into high school, and we are in a new school district, a new state, and a new school district. So even just not being able to communicate with other kids, right, in the same way that they used to, and having to, meet new friends and do all of that in this kind of new, I guess, socialization that we have in school now, right? What does that even look like? right? Because he
Right.
doesn't know, right? How would he know? Because the pandemic just happened last year and everybody was home. He stayed home the full year last year. He didn't go back to school at all last year. So that became the new normal, right, for him. And then now to go back to school, having to wear a mask, and then, having to go to school and meet new people. So, it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out and how they're able to work that out. I think they're expecting that all of the programs will still happen, but we just don't know. So I wanted to mention some things before we get into that a little bit, because I was just reading that the cases are rising in 42 states. They're saying cases have risen just over the past week. They're saying week ending on Monday. This was USA Today. This was today in USA Today. 7,225 deaths in the U.S. just in a week. They said the deaths are increasing, and Dr. Fauci was saying that the primary reason to get vaccinated is to not end up in the ICU. Okay, he said it's not to not wear masks. Now they're telling everybody that you should still wear masks, but they're saying we want you to get vaccinated because we don't want you to end up in the ICU. We don't want it to be as severe as we have seen with the Alpha variant, and now knowing that these variants are more contagious and more resistant to the vaccination, but they're saying, we don't want you to end up in the ICU. So we want you to be able to recover faster, is what they're saying. So now we have the Delta variant and we have the Lambda variant, which they're saying are super resistant to even the vaccination. And I know they're actually thinking about advising that people get a third vaccination shot to be able to handle these new variants that are out there. So I just wanted to mention kind of some of the facts around this that are going to shape what's happening over the course of the next few months, especially as we get into colder weather. And then, how are kids, parents, just people in general going to handle, what's been going on? Like, I would love to hear, Sarai, what you've seen over, the course of 2020, and then, what your thoughts are for what people can do to try to go into, 2022, I'm going to say, right? Deal with the end of 2021 and go into 2022 dealing with this as best they can.
So the way I see it is like we there's, I don't know why I hear my echo, but the way I see it is that we were presented with a monster last year, right? And now we're presented with a new monster with 3 heads on it. So it's a whole other monster. That little monster we had last year that we thought was horrendous. We kept our kids at home, and we were protecting ourselves more than we are now. Now we have a 3-headed monster, and hey, kids, go to school, right? So it's what are we gonna see? What are we gonna be seeing? We can't even imagine what's going to happen over the next year. We want the best to happen, and we want that these vaccinations to protect us and all of that. But I think what we need to do, since we can foretell the future, we need to do a lot of prevention with our kids. And I think prevention begins with communication. It begins with allowing our children to talk about their fears and talk about their emotions, and not necessarily, a lot of parents don't want to hear that because parents are dealing with their own fears and their own emotions. So parents want to say, oh, no, don't even think about that. Or, why are you thinking about, and they want to shut them down. So my recommendation is don't shut your child down. You don't need to add to it, but at least hear them out and validate their emotions, validate their fears, validate what they're thinking, validate all of that, and then help them, offer them a better way of thinking about it, but not necessarily shut them down. Because once you start shutting a kid down, they're not going to come talk to you again, and then they're going to go talk to someone else, or they're going to keep it to themselves. So I think the number one way to deal with this is through communication and giving your child an open, even in schools, like the leaders in the schools should also allow for an open communication, or at least once a week, where kids get to talk about their emotions. What are they dealing with? Last year, my brother's best friend's daughter died, and she died because she got COVID, and she happened to have had she had diabetes. So she was a 19-year-old girl, and it just happened like this. She graduated, everything was going amazing. She was doing her high school graduation party, and it just happened so fast. It was just like boom, 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 boom. All of a sudden, we're like, oh, she died. And so
Wow.
we were shocked. And then how does that impact the kids? Because all these kids are going back to school. We don't know if our kids are going to experience losses like that. And we're going to have to deal with that as parents, as
Right.
family members. We're going to have to deal with that. So it's about having an open communication about this and allowing them to express themselves and offering them a more empowering meaning. In other words, instead of us thinking about, oh my God, what we can't do this or what's going to happen, and instead of just living in that fear, just think about more, what could we do? Okay, we could wear a mask, we could have distance, we could wash our hands. What could you do, as opposed to how terrible things are going to be? Because I really dislike all that fear talk, and I rather be from the point of view of what could we do. And sometimes when you come from that point of view, people don't want to hear it because they think that you're talking about fear. But it's not about talking about fear. It's about being proactive,
Yeah.
empowering others, especially like the little ones.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for saying that. I have a question for you too, because as you were talking, I was just thinking about when you're talking about the communication piece, how effective and meaningful do you think it is, or important too, for the parents even to communicate their own fears? And I just want to say, hey, Philip McCormick, thank you for joining us. Glad to see you here. But what do you think about that in terms of the parents communicating their own fears?
So I think it's good to communicate your fears, but it's not about it's how you communicate it.
Okay.
So it's about communicating it in a way that's realistic. You know, realistically, we should be concerned about COVID and Lambda and Delta and all and even the vaccinations. We should be concerned about these things. But being concerned and being freaked out is like a whole other thing. If you show up, I mean, haven't you ever seen, I'll give you an example, like the kid that's afraid of, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but the kid that's afraid of like lizards or roaches, that a lot of times when you figure out why that happened is because one day mom saw a lizard or a roach and went, screams, and now the kid's like, oh my God, like freaked out, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with us. We teach our kids how to feel and what to think, but because they're watching us, they're watching how we feel, we're watching how we think, they're watching how we express ourselves, and so they're learning from us. So we need to be careful. We need to be careful of the way we express ourselves, relate, about COVID and about everything else.
Yeah.
And the other thing about that is we're around, we're us with our kids, and we're around friends or family members who are expressing themselves in this panicked way. Then what I would do is, once they're gone, I would go, once I'm leaving, I get in the car, I'll say, hey, Lilith, remember, how we just heard this person say this and this and this? They're just very afraid, but this is, and offer them another explanation.
Yeah.
The word I want to emphasize is empowering. Offer them an explanation that's empowering, because this is happening, but we do have some power and control over it.
Yeah,
It's not like it's spreading like wildfire, because we're able to do some things, right? I think we are. I hope so. I hope we're able to do some things. I try to do some things.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I love that you said that. Turn it into an empowering conversation and teach them some empowering action, because we have to deal with this no matter what. It's here, and it looks like it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah. So we need to be able to equip our kids as best as possible, along with ourselves, right? Even speak to yourself in that same empowering manner, right? To make sure that, we're kind of making sure that we're not so stressed out about what's going on, so that we can be better parents for our kids and just better to the people around us. So, oh my gosh. So this conversation is too good. We're going to take a commercial break. We're going to come back, because I know Sarai has some more tips for us to think about so that we can manage ourselves during COVID. All right. So we're going to go into this quick commercial break, you guys, and we are going to show you again our commercial for our very own Shima from She Talks, taking it to Kenya to help the beautiful ladies of Kenya. Hey, everyone. We are back with FEM Talk, talking to the beautiful Sarai. She is a licensed mental health and trauma expert. So I'm going to bring the ladies back in so that we can talk more about COVID and dealing with these times. We are talking about COVID caught between the variances. All right. So here we go. Bringing back Brandy the Connector,
Hello.
the girl boss up, and the expert Sarai from Circle of Champions Worldwide. And I want you to, we're going to save some time at the end so we can talk about Circle of Champions and everything else that you are doing. We want to be able to share that as well. So we're going to save some time at the end to do that also, because Sarai is amazing. I am a part of Circle of Champions. And so is Brandy. So I just wanted to mention that she's absolutely amazing and how she brings people together and supports people. So I just wanted to give some time for that as well. So we will get into that a little bit later in the show. All righty. So let's talk about this, you guys. So let's talk about the parents going back to work and some of the traumas that the parents are going to experience. One, trying to juggle through going back to work and juggling through even, or thinking about, I should say, the unknowns when it comes to managing work and managing home and trying to figure out how that's all going to fit in when something happens. So have you had a lot of people come to you just concerned about, what's next, and now having to manage their lives around yet another phase of this pandemic? I love the way you said three-headed monster, right? Like it grew two more heads, right? Basically. So, so them having
Delta.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So what would you say to now, the adults trying to, even if they're not parents, just trying to manage life now with this pandemic and the changes that are happening?
Other than the communication, I want to say, like, keep it light, enjoy, just don't forget to enjoy life. We're so wrapped up in the stress, this and that stress becomes traumatic stress, which then affects our health and then compromises our immune system even further. So
Yeah.
right, make sure, like, we include some laughter, make sure we include hugging, make sure we include, laughing and planning fun things if it's one thing that I think this has taught us is we're not mortal, right? And so we have to enjoy. I mean, I definitely learned that with the girl that died last year. My brother passed away last year as well, and so many people that I have known. I mean, I think that's one thing that we a benefit is that we now know that we need to appreciate each other, right? And sort of, I'm always about let's look at the other side. The other side is that is that benefit. Let's appreciate the times that we have together. And as far as, like, concerns, I see a lot of parents happy that kids are going to school, to be honest. Do you guys hear concerns? Do you guys hear any concerns?
I just wanted to mention, because I was watching something on social media where a parent was actually fighting for her child to not wear a mask going back to school. So it wasn't even that she was concerned about going back to school. She was concerned that what you had mentioned earlier, Sarai, is my child has to go back to school and now wear a mask all day, which could also be unhealthy, right? Let's be realistic about it. You're not getting in enough oxygen. You're breathing in your own carbon dioxide. So listen, that could also be unhealthy. So that was the concern that I saw more, and this is just on social media. But Melissa could probably talk to this better because she's talking to parents and administrators. So, if you want to take that away, Melissa.
Sure. It's a mixed bag. Parents, to your point, parents are on both sides. You have a lot of parents that are looking forward to bringing their children back to school because for many students, it really disrupted their lives. The level of education that they were receiving for some students really wasn't what they were getting before. For others, they thrived at home. So it's a real mixed bag that we're seeing. But I think the majority of parents, they are concerned. They want to know what we're going to be doing in those classrooms to keep their children safe. I think to your point, Sarai, is that we have to educate and communicate We
Yeah.
just had 3 town halls with parents, students, and staff, and they were highly attended.
Mm.
Had a lot of parents come on, a lot of students come on, and everybody asked questions. I think they all left the town halls we had, feeling better because we had answers for them.
Mm.
We had a plan for them. We had multiple, layers of the masks, the desk
Mhm.
guards, how we were going to distribute lunch, how we were going to, sit them on a bus. All of those things were concerns. And to your point, the more we talk about it, everybody does have fear, and the fear is real. But
Mhm.
we mitigate the fear by giving information, by
Mhm.
communicating. Just your point, Sarai, in terms of communicating, making sure that we talk about it. One of the great things that we're also doing in our district is for the first 3 days, there are called mental health days.
Mm.
There's not going to be any open book classroom work. We're going to have mental health days for staff and students.
Mm.
We're going to talk about what they experienced last year. How are they feeling now? So we're going to deal with with the fears, with the trauma,
Mm.
deal with the exhaustion that some people are feeling because they was home for 16 months and
Mhm.
all of those things. So we are trying to address that, and I think once we do those kind of things, to your point, people are going to feel it's not that we're taking away COVID. We're learning how to live with it. We're learning
Mhm.
how to deal with it because it's not going away.
Right.
Now it's a matter of what do we implement to be able to live in a society that has a deadly disease.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Wow.
in order for something to be experienced as trauma, in order for our brain and our body to register this is traumatic, there has to be a feeling of helplessness, a feeling of
Mm.
terror, and a feeling of horror. And
Mm.
through communication, and communication is a way that we validate people's fears. If
Mhm.
even one-on-one, if you come and talk to me about something and I go, oh, that's nothing, and I don't even have dialogue with you, you're going to feel invalidated and you're not
Mhm.
going to feel heard. But by having these open forums where we're communicating and talking about it, we're validating the masses fear and the masses concerns, right? And we're removing that piece of feeling helpless, because through communication we empower people. So we're
Mhm.
actually doing with that. That's why I call it prevention. That's a way for us to not allow for trauma to occur. Even though things are
Mhm.
traumatic, it doesn't have to be it doesn't register as traumatic if we empower people with information, if we make them feel like they're part of a community.
Mhm.
Support is very important. People get traumatized when they experience things and then they don't have the support. So
Mhm.
communication is like so important, and just having multiple ways of doing that through Zoom calls, through even parents could create groups where they could have their kids communicate and express their feelings. There's so many different ways, and that will really take away the part where something that could potentially be traumatic won't become traumatic.
Yeah.
It'll become another thing that we overcame, as opposed to
Yeah.
something that killed us, something that we suffered through. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be something that we suffer through. It could be something that we overcome and that makes us stronger.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. You guys, I'll put a pound 22, a hashtag, excuse me, 22 on that one. Did you hear that? Sarai said it's something that we could overcome, right? So that's powerful. That is super powerful to think about it in that regard, because I think, especially when we're listening to the news in particular, right? They always put, this derogatory spin on it, right? Which it is. It's a horrible disease, right? Or virus. It's not a disease. It's a virus, but it's a horrible virus, right? And people are dying, and it could be traumatic. But for you to say, listen, this is something that we can overcome, and empower ourselves to do so with the information, with the communication, with the things that we can do to be preventative, even with our physical health, right? There are things that we can do if we have the right information to empower our physical bodies to be able to fight off a virus, right? To put ourselves in a better state. So when you think about like what Fauci said about getting vaccinated to not have to go into the ICU, there are other things that you can also do with your physical body, in terms of the vitamins and the food that we eat that you can consume that is going to help your body to fight off, COVID, along with, influenza and whatever else is out there. So we have to empower ourselves from that perspective as well. So I wanted to give that health spin on it as well. But I love that you said this is something that we can overcome, because let's face it, that's what we are looking to do. Even though it's still here right now, we are looking to overcome this. So that's why, the school districts that we're talking about are putting all these protocols in place, implementing different measures to help people to overcome. That's why, the government is doing their own part, right, in terms of the vaccination to help people overcome. But we have to empower ourselves as well. So do that physical part, take care of your health. Also, Sarai also mentioned stress, which is another thing that can have you physically ill, right? So we want to make sure that you are mitigating stress. So when you think about, if you're stressing out about COVID, then you are decreasing your chances of fighting off a virus or anything else that's out there that may try to put you under attack when it comes to your physical body. So, mitigate the stress as well through the communication, through the information, get all the information that you can, and take care of yourselves. I wanted to say hey to Raymel Bentley. Hey out there. I wanted to say hi to Kiki P too, because we didn't get a chance to say hello to her as well. And Raymel is saying #22. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. So you guys, listen, I want to shift the conversation just a little bit, because I'm just even thinking about people who are, considering having children and the world that we live in. And I wanted to go to Brandy on that, to talk about, what do you think about now considering having kids and what's happening, and what impact does that have on you? Because we've been talking about kids.
Right. Considering my rear end, if God willing, I'm having these children, I'm not concerned. Like, I guess any rational individual will be concerned about everything going on around us. But over the years, through my personal development, the connections I've made, the level of confidence and know-how that I now have, especially after the last year in particular, it's like everything, seen, unseen, completely like unguessable, has happened over the last couple of years. And even now I'm like, you know what? There is no perfect time to have children, so I'm still going to proceed with that.
Right. That's right.
Last year, I don't know, because I'm such a homebody. When everybody got sent home and everything, it was like no big deal to me per se. But I can also understand how it's a huge shift to other people that's not used to that. Because I have been fortunate enough that my husband brought me home. I work from home full time since like September of 2017. So I was already home for the most part anyways. It was just a shift in being able to go see my parents the way I used to all the time, or how I go to the store or not. I had to be more mindful about like ordering my groceries where I can, or if I'm going to the store, I'm going and getting what I need. I'm getting out. I'm not standing around. If everybody's fighting over the toilet paper in the back, I'm going to go grab me some rubbing alcohol and gloves and come see about toilet paper later. I'm fighting with all these folks.
Right.
But the same way people get that warrior mentality when it comes to stuff like that, and like even Black Friday, there are people that love the battle scenes of Black Friday. And I'm like, I don't got time for that. But as a future mother, I see all this going on, and I'm like, okay, I could be worried about sending my child to school or not sending my child to school, even though I've already got it in my mind. I prefer to homeschool anyways, up until probably about middle school age. Then they can choose whether or not they want to go to school, private school, whatever from there. Because there's just a different type of foundation I'd like to lay that you're not going to get in the common traditional school systems. But even thinking about long term, COVID is, like you said, a virus. It's like the flu, pneumonia. It's going to come and go and come and go on a regular basis. So why freak out about something that I can't prevent? I can only maneuver through. And that's one thing that's helped me keep my head, for the most part, through this whole process, is just simply asking myself, is there any productive reason or anything productive that'll come out of me getting upset or out of pocket about whatever I'm facing in the moment? And what also helps me too is remember that in COVID, we're not alone. Everybody is experiencing this. So if you're able to remember that and not fall into the politics of it all, because
Mhm.
anybody that has problems with the whole masking, not masking, vaccines, no vaccines, because you're too political about it. Vaccines, to those that choose to take them, great. To those that choose not to take them, great. Just be
Mhm.
willing to put on your mask and conduct yourself a little bit differently if you don't want to take the vaccine,
Mhm.
because your health is your completely on your hands at that point. If you
Mm.
get sick after choosing not to take the vaccine,
Mhm.
um, you better be prepared to do what's necessary health wise at home, because like the way things are going,
Mhm.
the likelihood of you getting an ICU bed or a ventilator is decreasing by the day.
Mm.
Mhm.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
if you're going to make that choice, stick
Mhm.
by that choice. I recently saw a story of a gentleman whose wife has stage 4 breast cancer and had to give up her bed at a hospital to a COVID patient that chose not to get vaccinated.
Wow.
He said, "I don't mind you choosing not to get vaccinated. Just go running to the hospital if and when you get sick,
Mhm.
because you made that choice."
Mhm.
Mm.
Mm.
So that might be cold hearted to some people, but at the end, everything comes down to choices, and you got to
Mhm.
be willing to stand by those.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I love
Mhm.
that.
So,
That's so powerful to me. And well said, Brandy, because I know clearly because there's so many of the population is still not vaccinated.
mhm.
And the problem is not that they chose not to get vaccinated, is that they chose not to get vaccinated and then do not take the precautions
Mhm.
that are required if you're not vaccinated. And I
Mhm.
love that you said that, Brandy, because I don't think everybody has that's the beauty of where we are and where we live, is that we do have the power of choice. But with your choice, you need to be more responsible. The
Mhm.
last thing, if you're not vaccinated, you don't need to be at a party or at a big event with without social distancing, without a mask on. You know, it's one thing to say I'm not taking it, but it's another thing to say, number one, that COVID isn't real. COVID is real. And
Mhm.
that number two, then if I choose to not be vaccinated, then I need to, as you said, conduct myself accordingly and
Right.
make sure that I prepare and cover and protect myself so that I'm not exposing myself to the virus.
Because
Now,
who
I
else
am
is
going to
involved
challenge
too?
you guys on this one a little bit because, as you know, I am not vaccinated. So I am going to challenge you on this just a little bit because I would say, and I agree with what you two are saying to a certain extent, but to me, it doesn't matter if you're vaccinated or not. You need to take those same protocols. That's my opinion because the vaccination is not a cure for COVID, and it doesn't mean that you
Absolutely.
can't get it. And there was just a case in Connecticut where a husband and a wife were both vaccinated. They both got COVID, and the husband died, and the wife survived. So we need to think about this. The vaccination is not an end all be all cure for COVID. We need to be out there and we need to be taking care of ourselves no matter if you're vaccinated or not. So I just
Absolutely.
wanted to put that out there. I'm not
Absolutely.
against the vaccination for other people. Everybody has the right to make their own choice. I feel like you vaccinated or not, you need to take care of your body. You need to take those same protocols. And Dr. Fauci just said it today. The vaccination is to make sure that you're not ending up in the ICU. They are saying continue to wear your mask even though you are vaccinated. So
Absolutely.
these are the people that are advocating the vaccination, but that are also telling you to take measures to take care of yourself. So if you are out amongst a group of people, you need to be mindful regardless. So I just wanted to challenge that a little bit because it doesn't really matter. If you really look at it, if you put them side by side, you really need to do the same things, to be
Right.
honest with you.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I
It's
totally
just a matter of what you can deal with in your life and what you're prepared to do. Now, I would say to people, and this is the health coach coming out, right, you guys? I would say if you are not taking care of your body, you better go get that vaccination because you
Mm.
need the extra protection, right? But if you're taking care of your body and you decide not to, then you need to know, okay, what are the protocols that I need to do if I come in contact with this virus, right? That's all I'm saying. And that goes for anybody. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Well, you also
You
got to
should be
ask
taking
who
care of
else you
yourself
may be
regardless.
affecting if you make that decision.
Yeah.
If you make your decision to get vaccinated, if you make your decision not to get vaccinated, who else could be affected by that decision is something to consider
Absolutely.
as well. Because
Absolutely.
you're old enough to choose not to get vaccinated, and if you get sick and bring it home to your family, are you willing to deal with the consequences of that?
Absolutely. And these are actually, I just want to bring this up too, because my son is 14, and these are discussions that we've been having. And I am going to give him a choice to get vaccinated because, just in looking at what it actually is right now, understanding, I know which one, and I'm not going to say the company, but I know which one that I would have him go get. I'm going to say this because there is one over the other for me personally. But I am giving him the choice because of what Sarai was talking about earlier, having the communication, talking about what it means to take care of yourself, but then also addressing his emotions about his fears around COVID and what's happening. And we lost people early on to COVID. We lost people that were really close to us, and that hit home. And I'm saying this, me not wanting to get vaccinated, noting that we lost people, but also understanding his feelings behind it. I am going to give him a choice to do that because I feel like he's 14, he's going to high school tomorrow. And I'm going to let him decide that. So we're going to have more discussions around it, but definitely going to give him the power to be able to make this decision. As Sarai was talking about empowering yourself, giving him the information and letting him make the choice around that so he can feel good about being out there and being, particularly being at school.
Right.
That's the most empowering thing that you could do for him, is to give him that choice and give him some sense of control and power over this thing that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love that you said that, Tracy, because it is about owning. I remember the months where I had to be at work.
Mm-hmm.
I had to be amongst people when there was no vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And the same protocols, to your point, I still take them. I still, wear my mask. I still disinfect my home. I still wash my hands frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Disinfect, if I'm not next to water, I'm just still doing the antibacterial. I'm limiting myself. I'm not putting myself into very dense populations. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If it's at a concert or something like that, haven't gone back to the movies. As much as I want to go to the movies, I haven't done that yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, there's choices that you have to make to keep yourself safe. In addition to that, I remember my doctor said, take this vitamin, take that vitamin to build your immunity system. Sure that, to your point, not that it's only COVID, to make sure that anything you come down with, your immune system can battle against it. So I totally agree. This is about choice, and it's not the season for ignorance. And I think that more than anything infuriates me the most.
Yeah.
When you hear people still doubting that COVID is not real.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think most infuriates me. Everybody has a choice.
Yeah.
But the one thing we can't be is ignorant.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to see, and every time I see it, I just shake my head, is that person in the ICU saying, I wish I would have believed the story before.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you have seen that video or seen that person saying, before they passed away, I wish I would have believed. I wish I would have gotten I wish I wouldn't have doubted or whatever.
Yeah.
At that point, as we all know, sometimes it's just too late.
Right.
And with that being said, I really like everything you said, Melissa, because that is so sad. But I like what you said about, like, the worst thing is the ignorance. I'm gonna add to that. The other worst thing to that is toxic positivity, where you think, if I think positive, it's not going to happen. If I push it away, I won't attract it to me, and all of that. And toxic positivity is lethal. So the other side of that is fear. Fear could also be very lethal, because what happens when we're in fear and panic? We overreact. We don't think logically. We deny and avoid. The other part of that is that we also deny and avoid things. We're so afraid, and we're like, no, it's not happening. There's no COVID. It's not going to touch me. God is going to protect me. And yes, God is going to protect you, but you have to protect yourself too. You have to join God. You have to work with him.
That's
and
right.
expose yourself, but you can't just expose yourself and then say God's going to protect me. That's not the way, as far as I know, that's not the way God has ever worked, right?
That's right.
And
that works.
That works. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And also, like, living in fear also increases your stress level, which your baseline stress. So if I keep myself calm, and if I keep myself in peace, and if I keep myself empowered, knowing what choices I need to make every day, my stress level might be right here. But if I'm freaked out, just letting all the thoughts that pop into my head, turning them into words, and just spitting that out there, I'm going to be this maxed out on stress. And God forbid anything happens, I'm going to be like, poof, I'm just going to explode. I'm going to catch COVID. I'm going to get everything, right? So we need to keep ourselves not in fear and not in toxic positivity either. And I think the middle part there is empowered. Knowing, empowered, and also responsible. Part of being empowered is being responsible. If you have toxic positivity, you're not responsible. And if you're in fear, that just gives you the green light to go ahead and attack everyone who isn't vaccinated, or everyone who's not wearing a mask, or or thinking, being all freaked out. So we can't be in either of those extremes. I think those are the things that are really going to hurt us. We need to be right in the middle, which is loving people, loving ourselves, loving others, speaking. We can't control every thought that pops into our head, but we could control the words that come out of our mouth. Because you have no idea how many crazy things I think of every day. But I'm responsible enough to not let them come out of my mouth. You know what I mean? Like every day I'm thinking about, who knows? You don't even want to know, because you'll be, I don't know if you'll be laughing or you'll be scared. I don't know what would happen. But I cannot allow every thought in my mind to come out of my mouth.
That's right.
So I have to have myself on check. I have to say, hey, you know what? That's not a good thought. I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to say it.
Don't give it life, because once you speak it, right, you're giving it life.
Right. I told my son that yesterday. He was speaking so much negativity. I'm like, Dad, aren't you the one that tells me that the power's in the tongue? Like, you can't control what you think about, but don't speak it into existence. Come on.
That's right. This has been so good. So I love that you said toxic positivity. Because that's
I've heard that term, right?
Toxic positivity. That's terrible too.
Yeah.
That's a blind. It's like the blind, like, no, nothing's happening. And people, like, what is that?
Right. I love that. So guys, we are almost like at the end of the show. I tell you every week, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is too good. Like we just don't want to end it. But I wanted to mention that we are going to be talking about the vaccination on next week's show. So you guys tune into that, because we're going to get more in depth on the vaccination for next week and some of the protocols that are happening in the different areas. So we just wanted to mention that. So that conversation will continue. But I also wanted to honor Sarai before we get off of the show, just to have you mention all the things that you're doing, whatever you want to communicate with everybody out there. Talk about Circle of Champions Worldwide and some of the things that are happening.
All right. I don't even know where to start with that one. Like on a constant state of overwhelm because of, maybe that's my own form of toxic positivity. I keep myself so busy that I'm not paying attention to anything. I never watch the news. I get the news from here. Like, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. All right. So anyways, again, I own a community mental health center here in Miami, Florida. We've been here for 15 years. I think that's where you got the 15 from. We've had the agency for 15 years. Yeah. And for the last 2 years, I've had Circle of Champions Worldwide. I also founded that, which is a nonprofit that's geared towards providing information on overcoming generational and childhood trauma. And one of the things I'm doing is tomorrow night at 7 p.m., I'm going to be doing the same training that I give all my therapists here at the agency, which is childhood trauma and its impact on our lives ongoing. Because we do know off the research that childhood trauma affects not only our mental health, but our physical health as well ongoing. And that's why it's so important to heal and to do transformational growth and all of this stuff. So to me, it's very important to empower everyone with this information, because I really believe that all of us could be agents of change, not just a therapist. Everyone is an agent of change, and all of us could stop childhood trauma, and all of us could stop abuse through information and by also giving that information to others, because we arm ourselves with information. Information is truly power. And so I'm doing that tomorrow night. I want to invite everyone to come join me so you could learn, and you could also be more empowered with this information and be an agent of change. And that's it. That's all I have for what else?
Love it.
I don't
Love
even
it.
know about mentioning next week, because next week I haven't even dealt with that.
So we can actually put it up next week for you. If you send me whatever information that you want out there, we can put it up next week.
Okay.
We can post it next week. So don't worry about it. No stress here, right? We can communicate it next week, and we'll just put it out there. We'll tell people how they can join. If you want to just send that to me, how they can join and all of that, and we can put that up next week for sure. So guys, stay tuned for that, because there is something going on next week that will be good for everybody to join in. But I also wanted to ask you, if people wanted to join Circle of Champions Worldwide, how do they do that?
Okay, so they could just find us on Facebook, Circle of Champions Worldwide, and it's going to be the circle, the globe with all the faces on it. Because there's another one, but mine is the one with all the faces on the globe.
Okay. All right. So you guys heard that here. Join on Facebook, the circle with the faces in the globe. All right. Circle of Champions Worldwide on Facebook. Okay. All right. And you will see us in there. You'll see us.
Nice to meet you, Melissa.
Time for Melissa to join. So we are going to play our wonderful commercial one more time before we go. And if anybody out there would like to have a commercial aired on FEM Talk, reach out to one of the ladies that are a part of FEM Talk. It can be myself, Tracy the Reset Coach, Brandy the Connector, Melissa Girl Bossed Up, or Shima Shishi Talks. And we will make sure that your commercial gets streamed on FEM Talk. So don't hesitate to reach out. You can also reach us on the FEM Talk show page. If you put your comments in there and you want somebody to contact you, we will do that as well. Or you can send an email to femtalk@e360tv, because we also do air on the wonderful E360 TV. We are streaming on demand as well as live on E360 TV. Get tongue-tied there saying that, but you can see us on Roku, Amazon Fire Stick, Android TV, Apple TV, the E360 TV app as well. Ready? So you guys just reach out to us there. So we're going to play the commercial. Before we end the show, we just want you to support our wonderful Shima Shishi Talks.